Welcome to the Rainbow Gateway Oracle, Virgo. This is your reading. I pulled the cards before I pressed play today. That came out that way. So this is a spread that just came out, intuitively, automatically. It's not anything that I predetermined in how I would lay the spread out. When you're using cards and stuff, you can use traditional spreads and layouts and stuff like that, but, when you're working with your intuition doesn't always want to color inside the lines, you know what I mean? So, you know, everyone does it different, and there's not really a wrong way to divinate. You just want to follow your own flow, your own creativity, your own intuition, and how it feels good. It's sort of automatic how the cards come out. And, it's just like an intuitive ping when, you move with the flow of life. And it takes time to develop your intuitive muscles, but it's not impossible. But a lot of people go, oh, hogwash or whatever, you want to call it these days. And, they don't believe in it and don't have to. That's their prerogative. They can live life however they want. But, they're missing something when they don't connect with the force of, God inside of themselves, or whatever you want to call that, your higher self, your soul, the intuition, the higher beings, whatever it is, God, universe, Jesus, Allah, whatever floats your boat. Okay? I see things as energy, nature, and science and stuff like that. And I do see how science and spirituality sort of intermingle, when you connect at, energetics and stuff, when you look at things like quantum physics and other, sciences when it comes to life and what drives it and stuff like that. And there's still a great mystery out there, and we don't know exactly what it is. But I'm someone who's studied yoga. I have read Don Miguel Ruiz, Brene Brown, Eckhart Tolle, and stuff like that. And you can feed your mind good things, and that's what the universe wants to tell you today, is to feed your mind good things. Here with the high priestess, she wants to talk to you about how your intuition is not being respected because you're ignoring it oftentimes, and there's also a blatant disregard for what it says for some of you. Now, this is a general reading, so we're wanting to assist individuals in finding their flow, the best things in life for themselves individually. I've witnessed many, many people living false realities for themselves because they have to fit inside someone else's box in order to be acceptable to them, and that's like a bit of a brainwashing there. It's like, I don't do it the way I do it. I have to do it the way they think I should do it in order for them to like me. There's this desire for outside approval, which is subconscious ordinarily, until you become aware of it in yourself. But essentially, the intuition is not being regarded as anything that's valuable, and it is the most valuable thing you could ever connect with on planet Earth. That's yourself inside there. Your inner child is your, soul self, really. And when you don't nurture your inner child, when you abuse and abandon your inner child, that's when you have all kinds of problems in life and conflict and stuff. And it's coming up, to try to bring that awareness, because, really all that stuff is born of ignorance. But, what do we need when we have ignorance? Well, we need awareness, we need knowledge, we need education, but we don't need false facts, we don't need self-limiting beliefs. We need intuition, and we need loving guidance when, we can't see where we're going in life. So that's why we call on our tarot reader, our psychics and stuff like that. I need direction. I don't know what to do. Start inside of you and start with your breath. Learn about some breathing techniques. Start with your mind. What's going on in there? Meditation is so important. You want to make sure you have good mental health. And so that means you have to be disciplined about the kind of thoughts that you're thinking. Because when your thoughts are polluted and trashy and evil and mean, then, when you're thinking bad things about someone, but then, playing fake and being nice to their face while behind their back you're thinking all sorts of nasty things about other people, and you think that they can't read your mind and they can't hear your thoughts and that your thoughts are private, but your thoughts really aren't private because they have energy to them and they speak to a particular frequency. Psychics have the ability to tune in to the thoughts of other people and can see their intentions and whether they're good or not, and to see, whether they're malicious or just, plain uneducated. Psychics have the ability, when they're a legitimate psychic, to actually see the intent of other people. They have the ability to tap into what other people are thinking, but they don't have full access. So, like, I don't have full access to your mind. I don't have full access to your history. I don't have full access to that ever. But in the moment of time when I'm delivering a message, what comes out of me is what I know and also what you know at the same time. So I'm not given like the whole picture of you. I can't look at every little thing in your life, in your future, and know it about you. I know what the universe gives me, and what the universe gives me is seeds. It also gives me empathy. It helps me help you find the best place to go on your life path when you don't know what to do, when you're having a hard time. It helps me help you get the right knowledge and education for yourself so that you can find the better feelings, so that you can get all that abundance, so you can live worry-free and actually enjoy yourself and have hobbies and not hate your job all the time and stuff. It helps you get to the right place for you authentically. But sometimes people think, well, I should be doing this. Well, that's their ego saying that. And you have to learn to find your way in life without your ego by following your intuition. Sometimes your ego aligns with your intuition and sometimes it doesn't. You have to listen to your intuition above your ego. Now, your ego is there as part of your identity. It's a defense part of your identity too, but it can also be a false part of your persona and identity. And what you want to do on your spiritual path is shed all of those things that aren't authentic to you. And they may have helped you survive at one point in life, different things about your persona, different things you identify with, your lifestyle choices and all of that. But I highly recommend reading a book called The 5 Levels of Attachment by, I believe it's Don Jose Ruiz and Don Miguel Ruiz. Don Miguel Ruiz has written some books, and also he has a couple sons that writes with him. So it's part of their family. It's really good stuff. They're Mayan elders. They have Toltec wisdom coming at you. Well, I think they're Mayan. They're Toltec wisdom people. It's part of the same, area, but it's different time frames and regions I'm hearing as well. I'm not exactly sure their, details of their demographics and all of their where they live and everything like that. The 7 of Swords is wanting you to know that when you don't listen to your intuition, you allow nefarious, manipulative people into your life. Also, you can allow nefarious and manipulative thought forms into your head. And, you might not realize that you're, paying attention all day long to really toxic thoughts because you're not paying attention to your thoughts at all, because you're not even paying attention to the fact that you're the one bearing witness to your thoughts, and that's what you need to know, is that you're the one bearing witness to your thoughts. You have the ability to observe thoughts. You don't have to adhere to any thought forms. You don't have to believe everything you think. You don't have to believe every story that pops up in your mind, because you have to check first. Is it true? Is it a fact? Is it just something that I'm perceiving? Am I perceiving correctly? When you don't listen to your intuition, you have a real chance of, being stuck in a shadow mindset, and then you don't always know it, but when you go through those time periods of life where you're feeling abandoned and, maybe you get dumped, or, maybe you have to dump someone else or whatever, but, I'm getting here that there's a self-abandoning pattern, and then, you end up with player types of people. They're manipulative, they hurt you all the time. And this is because you're not listening to your intuition, and you need to. And that's why you come to tarot. Really, you want to hear that this is the man of or woman of your dreams. But essentially, what you're hearing is that, once again, they're a narcissistic abuse type of a person. Now, they may not be a narcissist specifically, but they could be a cluster B personality type in malignancy, which would still be, a type of narcissistic abuse, though there might be differences about it. But essentially, we're doing general here, not specifics. Gaslighting abuse is a real problem for a lot of people. The Queen of Swords hates it so much, and so does the King. They're coming together here to want to combat gaslighting abuse. Gaslighting abuse is a form of psychological abuse. It is emotional abuse, and it's terroristic violence to others, and it has to do with needs and feelings and control and such. And what I'm seeing here is that these two are coming together in order to combat this in a lot of different arenas in life, but it's a really heavy topic for the people who are working in that sector. You're talking about people who work at CPS, Child Protective Services, and just in, even in HR and companies and stuff like that. And, it's happening all over. You have toxic work environments, you have, child abuse stuff, and then, you have, just other arenas in life where it shows up as well. And this is the thing, that there are a lot of people who are trying to do better, to know better, to understand life better, but they don't want to hear that it has to do with childhood trauma and the abuse from being at home. People want to brush the child abuse under the rug, and it's difficult. But you come here for these romance readings, you can't possibly have a healthy, good relationship when you don't have one with yourself. And we all want that perfect partner. We all do. And you have to be able to be honest with yourself, and you have to see that you're not listening to your intuition, and you think that this is like the man or woman of your dreams for life, and they're manipulative, they're not good to you, they're not bringing you anything good, they're not bringing you honesty, they're not bringing you truth, they're bringing you manipulation and gaslighting, and they're messing with your head. And you don't want to stay with someone like that. It's important to listen to your intuition every time. And a lot of people come here to these, readings because they have, obsessive compulsive disorder, maybe not in malignancy, but it happens with relationships where you have insecure attachment issues and abandonment wounds from what happened to you in a childhood. And then you end up with the partners who abuse you like your parents did under the radar. And you don't see it right away because you're so manipulated your whole life. So it's like you're raised a certain way, and then you end up back in an abuse dynamic with a partner, and you think you have a real good one, but then you don't. And then, it starts to wear off after like 6 weeks, and it's like magical for 6 weeks, and then it wears off slowly. And then you spend another like 10 years of your life trying to convince yourself that they're the person for you when they're not. And, don't let that be you. And I know it happens to a lot of people out there with this type of, abuse. And you get stuck in it, and you get stuck in the dynamic for various reasons. Sometimes it's financial, and it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you want to remain in an abuse dynamic. It's manipulation. It's head games. It's control and stuff like that. It has to do with your very survival a lot of the times. And when people can't leave abuse dynamics, oftentimes it's financial. They don't have the ability to stand on their own, even if they're a hard worker in life, because not everybody can get that paper. Not everybody's born into a really healthy environment, and so all they learn is toxic behaviors. And until you teach them better, they don't know any better. So we mention it here about your emotional health, because you're coming here, you want to know about your partner, you want to know about your twin flame. But what I'm seeing here is there are a lot of distorted feminines who are thinking that their narcissistically injured partner is their magical twin flame for all of time. It's not. That's a false twin. And you have to be honest with yourself. But the thing is that You have to just keep listening to your intuition, and when it tells you to leave, leave. Pack it up and go. You know, ghosting is not always the best thing to do, but everyone's situation is different, and whether they would be dangerous to leave and how they would get out and all that, you need to talk to the right kind of person. You can find the National Domestic Hotline. It's the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and I'll post it with the video here. And I'm going to start posting that on my ads when I put them out there, but I didn't put it in my description box yet, but I'm going to add it at the bottom. Call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. They'll help you get out safely, and they'll talk you through it and stuff like that for your specific situation and circumstance and a budget and finance and all that kind of stuff, because I can't give that to you here. And I can't necessarily, be the one that's a crisis counselor, but I can help you get to a crisis counselor if you're feeling like you're in one, okay? Because we want you to be safe. We want you to find that good partner for yourself. We know that you do the work, but, unfortunately, the manipulation is so strong, it's not your fault. And that's the thing. It's not your fault, but, the education needs to be there. And then, you get the support with the therapies and stuff like that. You can find help with yoga. You can find help with, AA, NA types of places, or what do you call it? The codependency one. It's escaping me. You might know it. There's a codependency group. I can't remember the name of what they call it. But they would be able to help you with that online. And, there's all kinds of other things. There's church groups. You can go talk to someone. Listen to your intuition. The universe speaks to you. It might give you an idea. And then you feel like, yeah, that's it. That's my idea. That's my place to go get the help that I need. And, trying to find support. You can get acupuncture. You can get psychotherapy. You can, also have massage work done and stuff to support yourself physically, to help relieve the stress is why you want those things. Regulate your nervous system helps you emotionally cope while you go through a big stressor like that. So you want to do the self-care, but you also, want to see that those people could help you too, I mean, you can even go to a hospital and stuff. They would direct you to the right places to go, homeless shelters, other places if you need that and stuff like that, to just go and get away from it. I understand that it's difficult because you want this person to be your everything, but you have to see all of the manipulation, and it's the things under the radar, the sexual abuse, the deprivation, the lies, the cheating, the things that you get an inkling about that you ignore. It's really important that you understand that. Sometimes it is a twin flame, because twin flames do exist, and I'm not lying about that. There is a real twin flame journey out there. But a lot of part of that twin flame journey is recognizing the codependency patterns in your life and overcoming that on your spiritual path. Following your intuition, no matter what, is always going to guide you to your twin flame. But when you're with the false twin, you have to leave them. You have to cut them off, block them, move away, whatever it is you have to do. You know it inside when it's that person for you, and when the message isn't for you, it's not for you. It's a general reading. This has to do with individuals who were likely raised by a borderline parent or a sociopath parent, antisocial, and these are parents who abuse the children, and then you end up in that abuse dynamic your whole life and don't know it a lot of the time, but can't understand why you always feel so bad, and why people take advantage of you, why you can never seem to get the things that you want in life while other people seem to sail and soar. You're struggling all the time even though you're doing all the right things and stuff in life. But it breeds a lot of low self-esteem and disrespect for yourself, so you don't realize it, that they're abusing you all the time, because they're constantly disrespecting you. But they teach you to disrespect yourself and them, and so you're just raised in a level of consciousness that's real low vibe emotionally. But you can raise your frequency by listening to your intuition. Your intuition will guide you to the places where you need to be. And you have to see, the universe gives you a direction. There's always the universe trying to speak to you through signs, through synchronicities. You know when you get an intuitive nudge and the universe gives you a message. All right? Tune in to the universe, tune in to God, tune into those signs and synchronicities because they will help guide you as well. And, you can practice divination yourself to your own self. That's how I learned to trust myself in the first place, was through tarot. And then, it just developed over 10 years or whatever. Now, it might feel like you're unstable and you don't know how to necessarily check in with yourself, how do I do self-inquiry? How do I, talk to the right person and, get at that stuff that I really need to know so that I can elevate. Don't feel, I'm not telling you how to feel, but it's like, it seems overwhelming to hear about all these healthy coping mechanisms that you don't know anything about, possibly. Some of you do, some of you don't. It's news to you. But, just start somewhere. Start with your breath. There's a practice called 4 square breathing, and just look that up online. And then you can do research on different breathing practices and techniques. Pranayama is yogic breathing practices. You can look up pranayama online and find that, and just start there. And then, just see how you feel with those breathing practices. Practice it twice a day, every day, and don't skip. It's just breathing. You can even do it on the toilet. But you can also set yourself up a nice little, room that's low lighting and has some plants in it, or, whatever. Just set a nice mood for yourself and do it. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in your cubicle. You can do it in the car. No excuse. Do the reading or do the breathing. That's where you start. And then just take it from there and do your own research, And you can do yoga asana practice, which is the postures and stuff like that. It's not for everybody. And it's really recommended for the people who are interested in it. Take some classes. It might not be in your budget, but you can find ways around it. Sometimes yoga studios will let you do work trade in exchange for classes. Inquire. Also, you can learn online, but I recommend at least taking, 10 yoga classes total in a 30-day time frame for people just starting out, and then go from there and take it away, and do you, but just as a recommendation. There's also Qigong and Tai Chi and stuff like that. So, you might find, a better avenue that way. And you can look into that too. With this 3 of Wands here, what you're seeing is not what you want coming at you a lot of times in life. The Queen of Cups here is coming through as you, but it's like you're not getting the return that you're wanting. And, in part, it's because there's an inability to really receive that love because you weren't allowed to receive it as a child. So you really have to work on learning how to receive love, and the universe can help you with that. You might not know how to do that. So when you're at a loss, that's the time that you pray to the universe. And if you don't believe in praying, well, figure it out in another way for yourself. And, that's all you can do. But those are the times to pray. When you feel afraid, when you feel confused, when you don't know what to do, ask for the clarity to come. Ask for the lesson to be gentle. It's not always going to be, but the universe is never trying to harm you. When you're listening to your intuition and you're following your path, even when the universe gives you life lessons, it's not ever trying to hurt you. It's trying to elevate you out of a place where you have to experience pain and suffering. The universe doesn't want you to suffer, but the thing is we have, oftentimes we have mental problems because of our awareness to our thoughts and stuff like that. There's toxic thought patterns. We're not finding loving energy at times because we weren't raised within that loving environment. There's a book called A Course in Miracles, and this book helps you find the present moment. There's a workbook, and it's one exercise every day, and it's just an exercise you do in your mind. You can do it anywhere. I used to do it on my walks. Every day I would go for a walk, and I would do the exercise. And it's one a day. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's just one a day. Don't be that overachiever. You don't have to get ahead. It's one a day. And it's a real easy thing to do. It's a real easy exercise. You don't have to make it into anything. It doesn't even take long. It's just one a day, and then you just drop it. One a day. It also comes with a text and a manual for teachers. So there's 3 parts to the book. And what I want you to know is that the 3 parts to the book can all be read, but you don't have to wait to start the workbook when you're reading the text and the manual for teachers. So what I recommend is maybe reading the first 100 pages of the text and also the first 100 pages of the manual for teachers. But you can actually start the workbook at any time during that time frame. But I recommend reading the text and the manual at the same time. So like read a chapter and then read a chapter. Simultaneous, and then read as much as you want, but you don't have to finish either of the books to do the full year of the workbook. You'll see how it goes when you're exploring that. If you're interested in A Course in Miracles, helps you find the present moment, helps you understand that a lot of thoughts in your mind are guilty thoughts, and your head is always telling you that you're guilty when you're actually not guilty. Sometimes people are guilty, and they are guilty when they hurt other people, and you can be guilty of hurting yourself, but the universe is always trying to help you not do that, and that's why you want to follow your intuition. The intuition helps you not hurt yourself and also make the best choices, because you can't see all of the future potentials that the universe can. So, it's a paradoxical universe. We have both finite and infinite ability. The universe tells you to turn right because it knows what's up ahead. You might not think you should make that right because that's not where you're going, but the universe wants you to go there. And so when you ignore what the universe tells you, you sabotage yourself. So you don't think you should turn right because that's not where you're going. But that's where the universe wants you to go, and that's actually the best option for you. So you have to listen to that. And you'll see in hindsight why the universe has you go right, in our hypothetical circumstance here. But, you have to trust the intuition enough to have that faith that when you make that right, it's not going to ruin your whole day, and you're not going to be late, or whatever other story comes up in your head about why you can't listen to your intuition. Your ego mind tries to talk you out of listening to your intuition because it might not be on your regular routine path. It might not be the thing that you think you should be doing today. The universe might be telling you to take a right, and you're late for work, and work isn't to the right, but you have to make that right. But in your mind, you think you can't because you're late for work. And what you have to see eventually is that when you don't listen to your intuition, you sabotage yourself and you create karma. That's it. That's how it's created. When you don't listen to intuition, you create karma. And so you have to teach yourself to listen to intuition all the time, no matter what it does to your life, because the universe is always taking you to better, but sometimes it gives you things that you need, and you might not think you need it, but it's a lesson in life, and you have to see stuff through experience. And that's the thing. The ego can only conceptualize, but the self experiences life in the present moment of time. So, the ego can only conceive of things, and conceptualizing is not always, the same as experiencing. Like, for example, if you've never experienced fruit before, if you've never had an orange, if you've never heard of an orange before, and someone tells you about an orange, but you've never eaten one, seen one, you can't ever know what the experience of it is to peel one, smell one, taste one, have sticky fingers and stuff like that from it. You don't understand necessarily peeling the skin away from the flesh if you don't have that experience already, And it's like People think just because they conceive of something that they know everything, but then when they experience it, they have their whole mind thrown for a loop because it's nothing like they thought. And that happens to a lot of people because you can only conceive of something. And this is the universe getting off a little bit on tangents. What we want to see here, though, is that when you take the right steps to follow your intuition, to make the right calls for yourself, and that's getting out of these relationships, then you can see how things come together better. There's less, hypervigilance, there's less, hurt feelings and stuff like that all the time. You can have a better, dynamic because, you get a more revelation inside. And then that helps you get away from, abuse dynamics altogether because the universe makes an adjustment to where your mind is and where your feelings are and stuff like that. Because the universe does move in favor of you, but the things that happen in your life might not seem favorable when it doesn't go the way you think it should go. You have an idea of how your life should go, and the universe has another idea. So you have to just follow your intuition and allow the universe to lead you. And that's kind of like you have to be in your divine feminine energy to allow the universe to lead you because, the universe wants to take you somewhere in the flow of your feminine energy. So, you have to let the universe lead you and flow with it rather than thinking you know everything when you don't, because we only know what we've been taught, and there is a vast amount of knowledge that human beings can't even wrap their mind around, even when they're like the most brilliant, like astrophysicist type of person. They can't still understand what does it all mean and why are we here and everything. But what we do know is that there is energy, that there's energy dynamics, that there's romance and, human beings living life, And there's not much else to say here on this reading. It's wanting you to get out of this abuse dynamic and find better. And we here at the Rainbow Gateway Oracle love you. We understand what it's like to be the victim of gaslighting abuse, and it sucks. And we want you to know that you can do it, you can get out of that, and you can find better. But when you stay because of fear and stuff like that, then ultimately you're just signing yourself up for, misery. And you don't have to be miserable. It's, an option. And it's not always easy to have to go through those emotional experiences and, have to still go to work and take the kids off and whatever and live your life and take care of your responsibilities when you have to go through a healing process like this. But you're not alone in seeing that it's disruptive to your everyday status quo of living to have to go through this. But the universe wants you to change the everyday that you're doing in life because your mind thinks it should be that way, and it's really not benefiting you as a soul. And you want to make sure that you're taking care of you, not your ego. You need to take care of your authentic self, which is your inner child soul, and also your ego needs to stand down because when it's being shitty to other people all the time, you're not going to have the time that you want to have because, you're being adamantly belligerent about not doing the disciplined mental work. You have to have good mental health in order to even open up on your spiritual journey. And you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to mind your health because that's all about self-love. And the universe doesn't give psychic ability to people who don't do the work. And there's a lot of frauds out there. But there's a lot of frauds everywhere. There's fraud doctors, there's fraud plumbers, people who just pretend that they know how to do shit and then wreck your home and collect for you or from you. And, you don't find out until it's too late, right? There is frauds in every arena. There are fake people everywhere. And that's not to make you fearful or whatever. That's why you use your intuition. And you find the people who are coming from their heart, who live wholeheartedly, who are humanitarian types, who care about their communities and the earth and stuff like that. What you're getting away from is people who don't care about anyone and don't even care about themselves. They don't care about the earth. They don't have any respect. They don't at all do anything good for themselves either. And, you can stay and do whatever you want in life. You can maintain an abuse dynamic if that's what you're feeling called to doing. And, getting triggered and yelling at the screen is not a problem for me. But the thing is you have to see that you're just not happy because you don't want to hear the truth. And that's what happens with a lot of people. As a messenger, you want to heal and you want to have the best relationship in the world, but you don't want to listen to the truth, and you don't want to do the things that are actually going to help you feel better, in your physical body too. It's going to clear up all that shit, all those migraines, all that stuff. It all has to do with, a dysregulated nervous system and, emotional problems and stuff, and poor mental health. You don't have to be mentally ill necessarily to, get therapy and stuff like that. But, when your mind is, sabotaging your authentic self constantly, you need to figure out how to make it stop doing that. Affirmations are really good. You could find Louise Hay. She writes a book called You Can Heal Your Life. There's videos, there's all kinds of stuff, Louise Hay. And that would be a good place to start. Affirmations also. Affirmations and breath work. That's where you start. And thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. This is not your fault. It's just something that you have to do for your own self in order to find that happiness and joy that you deserve. You have to clean it up. Your family gave it to you, and you have to clean it up. Essentially, they dumped all their generational trauma on you, and now you have to clean it up, or you can pass it on to the next generation in your family and stay miserable. That's kind of the choice we've been given by the universe. Deal with your generational trauma crap, or, be a part of it, or be, the one contributing to it still. That's where we're at here in 2026. And this is a timeless reading, but, perhaps it will improve in the next 10 years. But what I want you to know is that these have been patterns going on for a long, 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 long time. And this has to do with survival. This has to do with family. This has to do with slavery mindset. And you have to understand, sure, this is published all over, but I'm guessing that a lot of, United States people are watching it, but, there are other countries that speak English and watch YouTube. But the thing is, anywhere that there's been slavery or indentured servitude or whatever over the millennia, you have to see that a lot of people have mental problems from mindsets that have been passed down in families and generations. People treat their children like serfs, like slaves. And sure, it's not, at the same level as what it was, with the black slaves and, the early time of the United States and stuff like that. But, there is a mindset that keeps people, trapped in a way. And that's, the gaslighting dynamics. And so you have to see whether you're gaslighting yourself, because gaslighting abuse is emotional invalidation. It's minimizing yourself. And, it's also depriving yourself of what you need on a physical and emotional level. When you deprive yourself of sleep, when you overwork, when you don't listen to what you need and take care of yourself. And, it's also self-deception, lying to yourself. Any way that you can antagonize your own self. The thing is when you're raised by parents like that, they teach you to antagonize yourself. So you have to learn how to stop antagonizing yourself and stop self-abusing. And that's the stuff that all comes in the self-inquiry And, starting with your breath, starting with affirmations, and even finding a counselor, a therapist, someone to talk to, you know, it's one step at a time. And then, you could do all of those things, but you just do one at a time. Start with the breathing and then go to the affirmations and then maybe look around for a therapist person. Look for a psychotherapist. Look for an acupuncturist. Look for stuff. Read books about trauma. There's a really good book called Waking the Tiger, Healing Trauma by Peter Levine. There's also a book called The Body Keeps Score, and I'm not sure the last name. It's something like Vander Tassel or something. I'm getting it wrong, but it's something like that. You can find it. And I'm going to get off here, and I'm just answering people's heads right now because someone is having this dialogue in their head. Look, you can do it, but you have to believe that you can do it, and you have to give yourself that pep talk every day. Those affirmations really help. Even if you call yourself stupid in your head for doing them, keep doing them. All right? Just do the affirmations, do the breath work, start there, and, check out some of these books that have been mentioned. Even The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is another place to start. Check those books out, educate yourself. You'll feel 1,000 times better after just reading The 4 Agreements alone. Thank you very much.